How to cut down a tree. In this video, I'm going to talk about a few ways you can cut down a tree by yourself. Some pieces of equipment that I'll be using in addition to a chainsaw is some climbing sticks, usually used for hunting. I'm also using an arborist harness, so it has the connections on the side for lineman's belt or lineman's loop. It also has a bridge in the front. When my channel gets big enough and they allow me, I'll put links for this type of stuff in the description section. And of course, a lineman's rope, handsaw, and I'll also be using a come along. So one approach is to climb the tree using these climbing tools that I just mentioned. And I actually just cut this tree in half basically using a handsaw. That makes it a lot easier to drop the tree without causing a bunch of damage, like breaking a fence, hitting a house, things like that. Before you get your chainsaw started, it's good to check to make sure that the blade, is set right. So you don't want too much play, and you don't want it so tight that it can't spin well. So what I'm simply doing here is loosening these two nuts. Using a screwdriver, you can adjust the tension on the chainsaw. So you get it to where it's not going to come out of the slot very easily, but it's not overly tight, and then you tighten the two nuts back up. I'm going to put bar oil in where the bar oil goes, and you want to make sure it's fueled up before you get things going. For this particular situation, now that the tree is in half, all I'm going to do is cut a little notch in the tree with the chainsaw, and then of course you want to cut the notch in the direction you want to drop the tree. So if I want the tree to go this way, obviously I'm putting the notch on this side of the tree. If I want to go the other way, put the notch on the other side, and then you simply come straight at that notch, or you can even come on a slight downward angle toward that, and that's going to help cause the tree to go that way. Again, being that I cut this tree in half to begin with, makes the rest of the cutting process much more manageable. Now, if you're in a situation where you can't cut the tree in half, like using that approach like I just showed, or if you don't need to, but you want to make sure that the tree falls in the direction where you put your notch, you can use a come along. And I'm also using some climbing rope, which has about a 2,000 pound breaking pound force. And I'll also use a throw rope to get this up around the upper portion of the tree, hook it to my come along, and then once I cut my notch, after the notch is in, then the come along is going to be hooked up on a tree over here. I'll connect it to the rope that I have connected to the tree here, I'll put a little load using the come along. I'll put a little load on that, so it's going to want to pull it in that direction. Then what you can do is when you're cutting in this direction, you can stop before you get to that, and you can even go put a little more load on it if you want. Sometimes you can just go ahead and add some load in and the tree will come down. Or you just add a little load and you keep coming, and that helps ensure that the tree falls in the direction you put your notch. Now that's important, because if you don't have a lot of experience with trees, even if you say to yourself, I want the tree to go this way, and you cut the notch here, you could start coming this way and the tree comes back. So you have to look at which way the tree is growing. If there's a slight angle on the tree and you put your notch on this side, it's still going to want to come this way due to gravity. So you have to take that into consideration. Even if it seems like the tree is growing straight up and down, if you're on a hillside, that tree may have a tendency to want to go a certain direction. And let's say you put your notch here and you want it to go that way. Well, your tree could actually end up going that way once you're coming through, just because of the natural lean of the tree or the natural pull of gravity. So having the come along really helps to make sure that your tree is going in the direction that you want it to. Once your tree is on the ground, you want to be careful to not pinch your chainsaw blade in the tree when you're cutting it. So if your tree's like this and you just start to cut straight down, the weight, especially if there's a lot of branches coming off, up here, it's going to have, it's going to put sort of like the weight's going to drop, and it's going to pinch your blade, and it's going to be real difficult to free your blade up. So what you'll typically want to do in this kind of situation is carefully start from the bottom and make a cut up a little bit and stop, and then come to it from the top. And that'll help make sure you're not going to pinch the blade and get your chainsaw stuck. Now for my project, I had one tree. Let me switch markers here. So I have a fence along the edge of the yard here, and I had a tree that was growing on an angle and then went over the fence like that. So what I did here is I got permission from a neighbor to hook my come along up to a tree over here, and I got a hold of it here, and I used actually a climbing tree stand for this particular tree. I climbed up to here, and by hand I just cut through the tree there with a handsaw, just because I don't like trying to get the chainsaw started when you're up in a tree like that. So I just used the handsaw, cut through, and with that come along had a little bit of pull that way, and so this swung out and it all went to the other side of the fence when I dropped that. And then I took the come along, so here's the tree here, I attached the come along here and I brought it over this way, and then I dropped the tree away from the fence in order to preserve the fence. Now I actually recorded all this footage a year ago, and I'm just now getting to put it together for this channel. A few days ago, we had another tree fall down in our backyard, and it's leaning over the fence into our neighbors. So in this situation, I'm going to have to, here, let me show you what I'm going to have to do. So the tree fell from here. Let me switch to black. Tree fell from my side over my fence, it's above my neighbor's fence, and it's hung up in trees over here. So what I'm going to have to do is get my come along, hook it to the tree over to here, and I'm going to cut this part off so that it falls on that side of their fence. Then I'm going to cut probably here, and the come along is going to help pull it back so it doesn't hit the fence there. If you want to see that, I also bought a battery powered chainsaw to test out on that. So I'm gonna do a review and a video on that. That is a monstrosity. Let's see if I'm able to pull it off without damaging all the fences. But in this video, I just wanted to basically show you how to cut up a tree. Actually, let me go over one other thing before I close out this video. Once you get your tree down, I mentioned about, not pinching the chainsaw blade. When you're working on a tree that's down, always keep that chainsaw pointed away from you. I keep my legs spread so that when I'm coming down through, I'm working between. I have heard stories of people going through trees and the chainsaw goes into their leg. So you want to be real careful. I keep the tip of the chainsaw up a little bit and I'm working away from me like that down, so the tip of that chainsaw isn't going to come back into me. You don't want to risk an accident, so you just kind of work your chainsaw through, let the chainsaw blade do the work, just kind of work its way through, get down through the wood that way. Got to be super careful when it comes to a chainsaw, because if you mess up, it could be catastrophic. It could be a major injury. Forgot to mention, this tree is dying, this giant oak tree right here. So I'm gonna have to take that one out too. Should look like that with the canopy. It looks like that. Oh, that is the one tree I did not want to have to deal with because it's too close to the house. Stay tuned for that one. So, thank you for tuning into this video. I hope you'll stay tuned to my channel. I cleared all these trees out to build this shed. If you want to see the shed build, check out the link I'll provide for that. Stay tuned, hit that like button, hit the subscribe. Catch you on the next video.